Hi, everyone. Today we're talking about the product world adapts, the implications of 2020. So in 2020, the world, including the product world, was tipped on its head. 1 year on, how have the challenges, pivots, adaptations of 2020 held up? And what are the implications for the future of product? So I am Mamuna Oladipo. I am an instructor here at Product School and the SVP of Product Design and Engineering at Kickstarter. I'd like to pass it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. Gautham, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Gautham Vishwanathan. I'm the co-founder and head of product at Workato. At Workato, we take a low-code, no-code approach to building integrations and automations, which traditionally have been complex and required technical skills. Prior to Workato, I spent many years at TIBCO. I was there from the beginning to about 650 million in revenue.
Thank you very much. Scott?
Hi, I'm Scott Castle. I'm the VP and General Manager for Analytics at Sisense, where we help people infuse analytics everywhere to drive new revenue streams and stickiness within their products.
Perfect, thank you. Nicole?
Hello, I'm Nicole Segera. I am VP of Product Management and Marketing at Revenera. At Revenera, we build products for software monetization, software usage analytics, and software composition analytics. So it's really interesting because I'm a product manager heading up a team of strategic product managers and product owners, but we also build products that are being used by the products organization. So excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Roman?
Hi, Roman Stanek, founder, CEO of Good Data. At Good Data, we are disrupting the world of BI, business intelligence, with a global analytics platform that delivers insights at scale to 100,000 companies, all the way from smallest ISV SaaS companies to large enterprises like Visa. And historically, I'm in enterprise software for the last 25 years. I started in first Java development tool called NetBeans. If people build application in Java, and then I move on and build application in SOA, service-oriented architectures, and microservices. So that's my background.
Thank you. So I figured we could start by jumping into our first question. So I'd love if you all could tell us about your product and who is your customer. Maybe we can start with Scott.
Sure, absolutely. So at Sisense, our customers are the kind of companies that build products where data and the data about what you're doing in the product is a really important part of the service. So everything from the web apps that drive your purchases on Skullcandy's website, to UI development with UiPath, to GE MRI machines, we help companies put analytics into their own products. And this really drives their customer success and their customer stickiness because of the way that surfacing data and surfacing outcomes from their products really enhances that end consumer and end business use case.
Thank you. Nicole?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, we are building products that are being used by product teams and operations teams. So at Revenera, we do software licensing, entitlement management, usage analytics. So basically everything that companies need to understand how their products are being used so that they can build better products, then giving them tools to take these products to market fast, along with that, managing things like licensing and compliance. And then, of course, to manage revenue models, might be subscription, usage-based models, whatnot, and continue to analyze and drive more revenue from their products. And we are mainly working with software companies and technology companies too.
Thank you. Roman?
At Good Data, our customers are product teams, and it can be a product manager, it can be head of product management, but also engineering teams that are leveraging Good Data to deliver analytics to all of their customers externally and internally. And as I mentioned, our focus is really on scale and kind of reliability of analytics. Typically, analytics is an afterthought, and it doesn't have the same SLAs, it doesn't have the same quality, it doesn't have the same kind of developer experience as the rest of the the stack. And so we believe that we have a first stack that's actually really kind of ready-made for developers and product teams to deliver high-quality analytics at scale.
Thank you. And Gautham?
Workato provides a platform that makes it easy to bring data together, to automate workflows. As the number of apps that we all use has skyrocketed, our data has sort of gotten much more fragmented. If you want to understand something about a customer, you may have to look up several applications to get a full picture of that customer. If traditionally a employee onboarding process that may have sort of required 2 or 3 different applications now requires many more applications. And what Workato helps customers do, typically in IT and departments, is be able to automate how we sort of aggregate data, automate these manual workflows to drive efficiency.
Thank you. Nicole, I'd be curious to understand how 2020 has affected your product.
Well, overall, not too much. I think we all we can call ourselves lucky that we are working in an industry, in the software industry, that went through that relatively well compared to some of the others. How we were impacted, some good things actually came from 2022. We spent a lot less time on planes and trains and airplanes, and then we spent more time with customers. It wasn't video calls, but still, we actually saw an increased level of productivity, believe it or not, just because people were working from home and we had more focus time for all of us. Our products haven't been impacted that much. I think we as a company put an extra effort into spending even more time with our customers, understanding exactly how they are using our products, but also what their business case is, to just make sure that we are close to them and we serve them in the way that they need it, because a lot of companies have gone through hardship and changes, and we just wanted to make sure that we stay close to what our customers are doing, which so far has turned out quite well.
That's good. Roman, how about over at Good Data?
Yeah, we were actually somehow, the timing for us was actually, somehow there was some sort of a coincidence. About 2 years ago, we decided to kind of shift the focus of company, or maybe expand the focus of the company just from the enterprise sales, from companies like Visa, to expand it much more on what I would call a product-led development. How can we actually use the product in our sales? How can we actually move away from relying on enterprise salespeople? And so we were actually in the middle of that launching like a freemium product and growth product and zero-touch product when the whole lockdown in 2020 happened. So from that perspective, we were almost unaffected. The opposite, we were actually able to grow the user base fairly dramatically. When I look at the number of users that we had on our digital platform, it went up 10 times. So it was really kind of, the whole year was all about kind of shift from how do we actually, as Nicole said, how do we again move away from selling enterprise software in in-person meetings, and how do we actually create a analytics that anyone can sign up for, experience, and then use without actually ever talking to us.
Yeah, Gautham, what about Workato?
We sort of have so far. It's been a pretty incredible year. The sort of pandemic has really put a lot of focus on automation, not just automate. I mean, in sort of 2 really different ways. For many companies, how they were conducting business or the areas that they focused on, there was a big sort of shift in terms of sort of new areas of focus and so on. And in those areas, automations play a big part in how fast you can respond. And also the other part of where we saw a lot of activity is even very traditional processes in terms of how we work with coworkers and so on, that was dramatically recast for a completely remote environment. So sort of we saw a lot of activity around using bots, onboarding, offboarding processes, collaborative processes within the company, and so on. So from a product perspective, not a lot of change, but definitely much more heightened pace of activity.
I can agree with that. Scott, how about a Sisense?
At Sisense, our customer base is very diverse across both industries and verticals. The companies that we work with and that we work for they're all technology companies in one way or another, but they're monetizing that in different ways. Grocery stores, their dog walking services, their VRBO companies, their traditional ISVs. And what's been really interesting is that throughout all the different impacts that the economy has had for those different verticals, some companies have been under enormous amount of pressure. Other companies have seen markets open up for them like never before. It's driven a really consistent trend towards the need for embedded analytics. What we're seeing is that whether you're doing incredibly well because you suddenly have a ton more customers because we're all virtual, or you're under an enormous amount of pressure because you're, for example, a VRBO company and your customers are suddenly not going on vacation anymore, the need to surface the information about what's happening, the information that you can provide to your suppliers and to your downstream customers about what's going on in their markets, and the ability to integrate it all together into actions that they can take inside of your product has become critical. That's now table stakes for everyone. And so this has been a huge demand year for Sisense because of that real sudden shift for almost every company into how do we get analytics and data into our customer experience.
Great, thank you so much. Roman, what changes are you seeing in the users of your product related to the global pandemic?
I think it's very similar what just Scott said. We had customers who grew 5x in 1 year because the market just exploded. We had some customers that struggled a little bit because their business was not doing well. I would say, again, what we actually see is kind of the focus on some of the fundamentals of moving products to the cloud. Last year was a big year when Snowflake went public, and so the whole kind of data infrastructure is now being kind of redesigned. I call it kind of the value chain, data value chain is now being kind of redesigned. And so we as a company, we have to look at how do we actually fit into this new value chain, and where do we actually add value as a company, and where, there are new, not new players, but new pieces or steps of that value chain that we are not playing and we should not be playing, and so on. So it was kind of, again, it's this kind of realignment of the data value chain is probably the biggest news of 2020, given Snowflake and our investments. And we are definitely kind of realigning how we work with our customers and what value we provide to customers in this new very cloud-based data ecosystem.
Thank you. Workato, how about Gautham?
In terms of sort of how the changes that we are seeing.
Changes.
I would say one of the biggest areas that we saw that was really overemphasized perhaps was the speed and productivity. So as for like companies like MGM wanting to have like a new media platform to take advantage of sort of all the amazing things happening on the streaming side, to be able to build something very quickly, or grab, trying to sort of focus on in different areas. We saw a big sense of a big focus on speed and productivity. And as a low code, no code provider, I mean, these are sort of the reasons why we sort of what we focus on. It was it was very well aligned. The other areas that we also sort of saw quite a bit of interest in is governance and security, because in a sort of much more remote world, the sort of these two took on different dimensions. So we sort of also that's also one of the areas on the product that we actually also put lots of focus on, especially in governance when people are working on very core data. How do you make sure that they're allowed to see the right data and not any much more than that?
Yeah, thank you. Nicole, what changes have you seen?
Yeah, so maybe a little bit of, in some areas we saw an uptick of demand, not unlike some of the other speakers here too. I'll mention three things that we could observe over the last year. One thing is we do really product usage intelligence, means helping companies understand what is happening within their software products and how they are being used, what users are doing. So there was a lot more demand for that, because obviously in a very special time, a lot of software companies and technology companies really wanted to adapt what their products do to what the users need. And they put a lot more emphasis and focus on finding out if the product works well for the end user or not. Because if it doesn't work well, then of course, you're first when budgets get cut, right? Then we also, as the second thing is we also help companies with compliance and finding software versions out there, especially for on-premise software where piracy happens or customer overuse. So we had demand there as well, because especially from customers that maybe are not doing so well, or that saw a little bit of a downturn of new customers, they are going back to look at compliance and to see if there's revenue leakage. So definitely more demand to find out what's going on there and if there's additional revenue to cover. And last but not least, someone said it before, the increased need for automation to manage everything automated, to make sure that no one has to go anywhere and do something, right? The automated software updates, part of our solution portfolio as well, became super important all of a sudden, because you couldn't go to a hospital anymore to update a medical device, right? It didn't work. So you had to do that electronically. So along with the shift to cloud, I think there's also like more automation, making sure that the dependency on someone actually going somewhere to push a button or to do something that people wanted to reduce that. And we saw a lot of demand related to these topics.
Thank you. And Scott?
Yeah, there were three things that we saw that were really interesting trends, and they all kind of locked together. The first one is that we're seeing a lot more what I would call citizen developers. So in embedded analytics, you see a shift from product organizations saying to engineering, hey, can you build this for me? To product organizations saying, I want to be able to build this myself. I want low code, I want no code, I want drag and drop, I want built-in integrations. It's basically a trend for democratizing application development and application access. But in parallel to that, and kind of going in the other direction, we're also seeing more demand for unified workflows that tie in the advanced analytics investments that companies are making. So when you have data scientists and data analysts, they're working in Python and R, in SQL, when they're building new applications of ML or statistical functions, they want the flexibility to do that. And in parallel, the development teams are saying, hey, I want more customization. I want API level control of how whatever I'm embedding actually operates, look and feel, integration. I want to be able to do all my application development in your platform the same way that I do it in my own platform. And the third piece is a real refocus on cloud. Our business is already pretty significantly cloud, but we saw that trend towards, hey, not just my application is cloud, but all of my infrastructure feeding data into it, collecting data out of it, processing data in the middle. It's all cloud now. There's very little of that. I'm pulling in on-prem data. It's all, every execution, application development, and data collection and data processing is all cloud.
Awesome, thank you. The next question we're going to dig into is, how are the changes adopted last year holding up this year? So Gautham, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. I mean, I think for us, they were not necessarily changes. I mean, in terms of the focus on speed and productivity, I mean, that's sort of when you have a low code, no code approach, that sort of is like the defining characteristic. So we don't see that changing. I mean, we definitely see, I think Scott pointing out also sort of more focus on citizen development. So with a low-code, no-code approach, you're able to draw more builders. So we definitely see that trend continuing, if not accelerating even further. Because I think one of the other impact of that we observed with the pandemic is also that in some areas, the number of available builders to build and so on has come down. So as a result, there's definitely sort of this bigger expectation of sort of doing more with less.
Thank you. Scott, maybe I'll pass it back to you. What changes, or how are the changes you adopted from last year holding up in this year?
Yeah, I think one of the key trends here is a demand for innovation around real time and around interactive embedding. This is showing up a lot as people start to ask the question, not how do I get information, or how do I get insights, but how do I take action on them? And so as soon as you're able to say, I want to be able to trigger a thing when I detect something, you start to say, well, how quickly can I detect? And that focus around real time is really something that's sticking around for us, and that's doubling down. The other one is just the rapid time to value, whether it's that low code, no code approach, or whether it's the high code custom development approach. Time to value is like the one thing. Give me the power to do it, give me the speed and control to do it, but I need to ship it now.
Thank you. Nicole, same question.
Yeah, I think most of the changes that we saw in 2020, they will just continue on, right? I mean, nothing of that will revert back. It will just continue and accelerate more. I think some things that we are seeing as a trend too is, again, this increased customer focus that a lot of companies have as they are trying to retain as much revenue as possible and grow with their customers. We see, and aligned, I think, also with the move to cloud, right? Move away from any on-premise software to cloud installation. Also, a lot of companies move away from any perpetual licensing or fixed price pricing to much more flexible monetization models, because the goal would always be to align what the customer is paying to the values that they are actually getting. So a lot more focus on actual consumption, how much are customers using, and then how much are they respectively paying for the software that they're buying. I think this is a trend that will only continue because in that year and probably for the years to come, any software buyer and any end user will monitor closely what they're spending, right? And software companies will have to adapt to that. So I think, again, along with shift to cloud and the accelerated shift to cloud, I think we will also see a continued shift in monetization models.
Thank you. Roman.
Yeah, for us, it's the same what we did last year. It's the focus on a product-led development and company. And our main measure of success will be adoption. We are actually relaunching Good Data in Q1 with our next-gen platform that will deliver so much more based on development in 2020. And for us, it's really kind of a recognition of the fact that data and analytics is a very confusing space for all of our customers. They go to the websites and they are all confused by how does your messaging compare to someone else's messaging. And that's why for us is the focus on adoption. And my goal is to, by the end of 2021 to see every single product team out there to use free version of Good Data and evaluate it, not just based on some messaging and some BI MQs and so on, but really on kind of a product quality, product features, product fit. That's kind of what we do as product companies. And I think that's the beauty of the cloud, that all of this adoption and all of the kind of customer access to technology is so much easier. And we just need to enable it as a company and just lean into it and build better products for bigger scale.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
A question here is, what is the advice you would give product managers to build products that are future-proof, building for resiliency in your product planning? So first, maybe we can start out with Scott.
Sure. This is an existential question for product management, right? And so I think the answers here are really around, how do you make your product sticky? If there are things that you're building that customers become essential for their products, things that they can't live without, or their users can't live without. That gives you the opportunity to talk to them about what else you can do, as opposed to always having to have the conversation of why still keep using mine instead of moving on to something new. That's the only thing that really builds that defensible moat in a product, is that stickiness factor, that where the customer's really deriving benefit. So the advice I give to product managers building products to future-proof them is talk to your customers, and also importantly, talk to the people who are in your market but who are not your customers yet. My own product teams get most of their valuable insights from talking to people outside of our markets. And when you figure out what it is that's so important about the people who don't like what you do yet, that's when you find those stickiness factors.
Thank you. Nicole.
Yeah, Scott just summarized it really well. So just adding to that, I think, again, I would totally agree, Scott, that it's talking to a lot of customers, talking to non-customers specifically to find out what is important and how you can grow and how you can make your product sticky. And then also, I think the other point that I would add, drive a data-driven process around your product decisions. A lot of product teams today still rely on only customer conversations, support information, right? And that's just one part of it. You also have to get some data out of your products about the usage and what is happening there. You might want to think about in-product messaging and other tools so that you can get a lot of different data points about how the products are being used. And then you can really find out based on data, not just on anecdotal feedback, what are the things that customers use most? What are the things that are sticky? What are maybe some of the features that you built because they were awesome and no one is using them, right? So then deprioritize those and then focus on the other things that people need. And I think that can only be done based on data. And I think every product team will be asked more and more over the next years to bring actual data to the table as to how their products are being used.
Thank you. How about Roman?
I think that what Nicole said is absolutely correct. Again, that's kind of the huge benefit of moving applications to the cloud, is that now we have a complete product telemetry. 10 years ago, we were all relying on customers telling us what, you essentially you throw products over the wall and you kind of get some breadcrumbs of feedback. So I agree with Nicole. It's kind of a measure, and I think that the main thing that the product team needs to focus on is how do you actually accelerate that feedback loop? How do we actually take that feedback from that measurement and close that kind of customer experience loop, not in years and months and so on, but how can you do it on a kind of weekly basis or even daily basis? And that way you can really evolve products much quicker and deliver the best experience.
Thank you. And then Gautham?
I agree with everything everyone said here. A couple of things I would add to that is, we just speaking from our experience, we feel that the speed has increased, that the velocity with which sort of the market expects new things, or as well as how fast the market is changing. So we have focused on even leaner MVP releases, canary approach to these releases, and then sort of going into a fast iterative loop. And we think that really the post 1.0 of a feature, the next few releases, is what truly sort of has a big impact. And the other is around data. Agree with sort of like, having, really taking advantage of all the amazing technology that we have right now to collect data and work with it. The finer point I would add to that is, one of the things that we also see with data is we have a lot of data, but it's really important to double click and truly understand what the story the data is telling, because oftentimes we see the same data and walk away with sort of different sort of stories. So I would sort of really focus on double clicking on that. And then the last one is communications. As product managers, how we communicate with engineering, how we connect with marketing, our customers, and so on. has gotten more complex. It's just because we've become so much more remote, and much of this is likely to continue on. Really trying to become world-class in communication, I think has become very important.
Thank you so much. Our last question of today is, with budgets tightening up in 2020 and beyond, what should product managers do to help increase success and revenue of their products? So maybe we can start off with Nicole.
Yeah, sure. I think product managers should look at themselves almost like the mini CEO for the product lines that they are managing, or the products they are managing. So they cannot only look at the features maybe they want to build. They've got to talk to customers. They've got to have really good cross-functional collaboration with sales, customer success teams, and others to find out what is really needed from them. And then really run a program around their product that is data-driven, that brings in the feedback from other departments, and that it also enables them to pivot in the areas where they don't see success, right? And they should move quickly. And then last but not least, important point that we all need to look at: where are our revenues coming from? Do we have revenue leakage? Is our pricing correct? All these things should be reviewed as well. So I think what the product managers should do is really take a broad view so that they can adjust everything around their products and find the best roadmap and also go-to-market strategy.
Thank you very much. Roman?
Yeah, from my perspective, I agree. We have a very successful land and expand program. So product managers have to focus not only the new customers, but also existing customers, so that we keep growing them very successfully. From my perspective, I think that, again, the whole cloud transformation is gonna bring so many challenges to product managers. The whole ecosystem will be fundamentally different, and so I think it's kind of making sure that you actually and your product fits into this new environment in the best possible way. How do you build partnership? How do you actually build collaboration? How do you stand on the shoulders of giants who actually have a better infrastructure? So no one can do it. No one can go alone anymore. And it's all about product managers need to understand how to fit into this new kind of ecosystem, and because the ecosystem that's gonna be here and it's gonna evolve in 2021.
Thank you so much, Roman. Gautham?
Mamuna, can you repeat the question?
Sure. So with budgets tightening up in 2020 and beyond, what should product managers do to help increase the success and revenue of their products?
So I think sort of we covered some of this in the previous sort of question, but I definitely add, we sort of didn't specifically speak to this, but the sort of ultimately, customers develop a sort of bond with the product that's driven by the user experience. The sort of, I can't sort of overstate the importance of driving an amazing experience there. What used to be tapping your coworkers' shoulders to understand something, that's gone. We now have to do multiple searches and clicks to understand how to do something. So any sort of friction in sort of this user experience is sort of causes much more discomfort. And sort of this also feeds into the land and expand or sort of having an incredible expansion focus. Here, one is sort of leveraging the product itself to drive more expansion in terms of what additional use cases can be done and so on. I think is important, but also overall in terms of how the company connects with the builders in terms of offering incredible customer success helps with that. So these are extremely important in this type of environment.
Thank you so much. And Scott?
I think as product managers, we have to focus on our products and say, what makes us essential? What is the thing about our products that means that we provide value, but also that we're hard to remove from an environment? I think that is thinking about how do we both provide value, but also tie into other systems and other infrastructure. How are we a key part of our customers being successful? I think fundamentally that's the way you drive revenue, and that's the way you drive product growth. Like Roman said, land and expand businesses like ours are living and dying by that. And so as product managers, I think that's our responsibility, is to figure out what that is, help tease it out, explain it, and then reinvest in it.
Thank you. So that concludes our question and answer portion of our panel. Thank you, panelists, for all of your thoughtful answers. I'd love to give you all a moment to just share any takeaways for the audience. So maybe we'll start with Roman.
Yeah, good data, so what can I say? Measure, collect data, understand data. That's the name of the game.
Thank you. And then Gautham?
I think the sort of is there's sort of all this uncertainty, but in this uncertainty, there's also lots of opportunity. So pay close attention to your customers, learn from the data, and take advantage of these take advantage of these opportunities. Thank
you. And then Scott?
The takeaway for me here is that all of us are moving to the cloud. We're all incorporating analytics into our products and into our environments, and we're all looking for ways to infuse that data into our markets. And I think this is the most important trend of 21.
Thank you. And then Nicole. You're muted. Hold on, you're muted.
Sorry. So not a lot that I can add. Thanks a lot to all the other panelists here. It was really a pleasure. And I think we agree on the key trends. I'd love to talk more. Revenera would love to talk more to everyone here around usage analytics and what can be done there. Happy to meet at our booth. And thanks for the discussion today. I liked it a lot.
Thank you so much. And that concludes our panel discussion on the product role adapts, the implications of 2020. Thank you everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.